The Saga franchise has always been something of an oddball to me within the JRPG space, but so many people speak so highly of the original Final Fantasy Legend Trilogy and the Romancing Saga games that the fact that we get a remake of Romancing Saga 2 is something to behold. And now that I've played the new demo for the game, I'm actually kind of pleased with what I've seen. My personal experience with the Saga series, having tried out Unlimited Saga as my first Saga game, which I always found was a little bit odd, and then playing some of the newer ones like Saga Scarlet Graces and Saga Emerald Beyond, I didn't really like what I played from those games, if I'm perfectly honest, so I was really pleased to see that Romancing Saga 2 is actually a very different experience, and one that felt more familiar to me than I actually expected. Before we get into the nitty gritty, of course, a big thank you goes out to Square Enix for allowing me to try out Romancing Saga Revenge of the Seven with its new demo that will be available later on this week to everybody else. So here we go, let's have a look at what there is to offer. So despite the fact that Romancing Saga 2 Revenge of the Seven is called Romancing Saga 2, it is very much a standalone experience. You don't have to have played any other Saga game or any other RPG like it, you can just dive in with this one. And it's very unique in the way it does its storytelling, because you don't just play as one main character. You play as a lineage of emperors, different characters throughout the ages that you play as throughout their time, and then each character progressively will inherit things from the emperor that came before them. And the way that the combat systems work, having been built off of the spin-off Final Fantasy Legend, actually come to a similarity of those of Final Fantasy II, which draws more inspiration from the likes of D&D and Western RPGs than many JRPGs do. What I mean by that is that you don't have an experience bar or levels like you would do in a typical JRPG. What you do have is proficiencies in elements, weapons, skills, that kind of thing, where the more you use those skills or weapons, etc., the stronger you become at using that particular weapon. So again, if you played Final Fantasy II before, you'll know exactly what to expect here. The base premise of the story of Romancing Saga 2 Revenge of the Seven is that the eponymous Seven were heroes that were destined to save the land from a long period of war and famine. But upon discovery of one of those heroes, it turned out they were actually villainous, and so the long line of emperors, starting with Emperor Leon, who you'll primarily play as in the demo, swears revenge against the seven heroes for not turning out to be who they thought they were. Something that struck me while playing the demo very quickly was the visual style and the way the UI is represented. It's very reminiscent of those of like Visions of Mana or a lot of kind of older RPGs but with a modern look. Obviously it's not going to have the kind of voice acting talent AAA budget of games like Final Fantasy VII Rebirth or 16, but it's got a charm inherently kind of embedded into the game itself. And after Visions of Mana, Shin Megami Tensei 5 Vengeance and a bunch of other games, I think it's pretty clear that I like my JRPGs to be old school. I was really impressed at how accessible and easygoing Romancing Saga 2 was compared to other Saga games that I've played. I think Square Enix has listened to feedback about previous Saga games that have been released in recent years, because I don't know about other people, but I've always felt that the Saga series as a whole was really quite inaccessible. It doesn't draw you in the same way that a lot of JRPGs do. It's not quite so story focused, at least off the get-go, because it's more told in a anthological way where you choose different characters and you follow that character specifically, but it's still quite larger scale, so it always felt quite disjointed to me, so there wasn't anything to really latch onto. And they've always been known for being extremely difficult games to play, and I think with the difficulty settings that are present in Romancing Saga 2, the fact that you're thrown straight into the story from the jump, it goes to show that some attention has been paid to try and widen the audience that the Saga games can appeal to. There's some smaller things within just the combat that I really enjoyed as well. So you have formations of up to 5 characters, and the way that those formations work, like you'll have a larger character in the front, 3 kind of mid-row characters, and 1 in the back who's more frail but more capable of doing magic damage, etc. In the demo, it's shown as like protecting the Prince Gerard, who is the other playable character that you'll come to know throughout the demo. And just having the big tank at the front, it was just a unique way of having a traditional JRPG party set up, and it did feel more Western, more D&D. It kind of made sense with the way that they were presenting the story. And with the fact that like health gets restored after every fight, but your MP doesn't, so you have choices to make on how you want to approach combat and whether you want to go all in quickly or you want to be more reserved, because if you think you can manage to stay reserved, then you can do so for a long period of time. There was a lot of decisions that were made in this game that I was pleasantly surprised by. There's also some really old school ways of doing things in this game that made me smile. So you will see that like certain moves will get used within cutscenes and the name will appear on the top of the screen when they do it. And that's something I haven't seen since the likes of Final Fantasy VI, like where General Leo is fighting against Kefka and stuff like that. So it was just something that really made me smile while playing this. I did also take the time to try the game out on my Steam Deck as well, because it was a Steam version of the demo that I played, and I'm pleased to report no issues whatsoever. I see absolutely no reason why this won't be verified on Steam Deck on launch. Ran perfectly fine at 60 frames, didn't see any hiccups or anything, the resolution automatically shifted to what the Steam Deck needed to be. Absolute 10 out of 10 in terms of the port to the Steam Deck at the very least. I was really pleased to have the opportunity to play this demo as I have, and to be honest with you, Romancing Saga 2 wasn't really on my radar for the longest period of time when after it got announced in the Nintendo Direct, because I wasn't really attached to the Saga franchise as a whole. I was curious about it, so to have this opportunity and go, actually, my interest has really been piqued by this demo, I'm really pleased about, and this venture into old school JRPGs is making me really happy. So the likes of Visions of Mana for action RPGs, the Saga games for those styles of games, the traditional turn-based challenging games, and I really hope that with the likes of Expedition 33 coming out in the future as well, we see a real return to this traditional JRPG gameplay, and I think there's a lot to be said for it. And Romancing Saga 2 Revenge of the Seven is continuing that trend from Square Enix's part, and I'm really pleased to see it. So yeah, those are my impressions of Romancing Saga 2 Revenge of the Seven as of the demo that I've played, and I believe that this demo is going to be made available to everybody later on this week, so I very much encourage you to try it. And if you've not been on the fence on Saga games like I have, I think that what we're going to expect from Revenge of the Seven is a very different kind of Saga game than we have seen in previous years, and to kind of make a bit of a left turn on how they're presenting these games I think is a really positive move. So I'm looking forward to seeing what the full game has to offer, and once again I'd like to thank Square Enix for giving me the opportunity to try it now. So that's all for today's video. If you've enjoyed what you've seen on this video, or you're curious to know more about Romancing Saga 2 or any other JRPGs that I've played or am playing, I'm currently playing Xenoblade for the first time and I'd love to have people to talk to about that as well, then comment below. And if you're not sure what to comment, then just type the word algorithm, because it's really helpful to us content creators. And if you have enjoyed what you've seen here today, consider liking the video and clicking the subscribe button, because there's plenty more JRPG news where this came from. And if you'd like to support the channel further, then you can check out the link to my Etsy store in the description box below, where I sell prints of the art that I make for various video games that have impacted me and my community. You're welcome to come and find me over on Twitch or Discord. All of that is linked down below, and I also have a Patreon as well, where I'm setting up a mailing list to send out prints to everybody, as well as a plethora of other benefits, including early access videos as well. So thank you all very much for watching, and I look forward to seeing you next time. Take care everybody, bye bye.